car crashes, defective products, dangerous drugs, injuries, and abuse. Across the state of Alabama, the attorneys, proudly sponsored by the law firm of Hollis, Wright, are here to serve you. Your tough legal questions answered by our experts with the attorneys of Hollis, Wright.
Good evening, and thank you so much for joining us tonight on The Attorneys. We've got a great show in store for you tonight. Going to be talking about dog bite injuries and animal attacks, what your rights are if you've been a victim of a dog attack or a dog bite, and the responsibilities if you're an owner or a possessor of an animal or a dog. We've got John Spade, an attorney here at our office, who is going to be with us tonight. But before we launch into the conversation, again, I am attorney Carter Clay, an attorney also at Hollis, Wright, and there are many ways in which you can get in touch with us throughout the course of the show. If you're interested in asking a question about tonight's topic or a legal topic that we're not covering tonight, we have attorneys standing by right now for a free, off-air, confidential conversation that they can have with you to help answer your questions. And if they're not able to answer your questions, we've got a list of attorneys that we are in contact with constantly that we can refer you to get your questions answered. There are many ways in which you can get in touch with us throughout the course of the show. The numbers are there on the screen in front of you, but the numbers to know are 844-LAW-TALK, very easy to remember, or 205-324-3600, or you can email or text us throughout the show. So take advantage of those opportunities during the course of the show. John Spade, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me. Happy to be here. I'm happy to speak with everybody tonight about this topic. It's one that when I first joined the firm 6-7 years ago was one of the areas that I kind of cut my teeth on a little bit and have been handling kind of throughout my practice. So I'm excited to jump in and get to talk about it here tonight.
Yeah, well, thanks for joining us. And I know I want the viewers to understand that some people may think this is really a unique or nuanced area of the law, and to some extent it is, but it's also a big part of not only your practice, but the practice at our firm. We see quite a few situations or instances where people are bitten by dogs or attacked by various animals and that they're injured and they're seeking compensation. Do you find that as well?
Oh, absolutely. And more so during, the shutdown, several years ago, everybody was at home. We saw a big spike then. But I'll say, it's a good portion of what we do are these dog bites and dog attack cases. So it's something that we deal with every day. And it's something that can have a very, dramatic and drastic impact on the person who's attacked by the dog. So it can be a life-changing, situation for them. So it's something that we're, very delicate in how we handle and how we approach these cases and really do the deep dive on the front end in the investigation to pursue these cases.
Yeah. Well, other than the obvious, if somebody is attacked or bitten by a dog, getting medical treatment and taking care of your injuries first and foremost is always paramount and of the highest importance. But what else would you tell the viewers out there who have been victimized by a dog attack, like in the immediate aftermath of it occurring? What tips or advice can you give them in terms of things that they should consider doing?
Well, certainly medical treatment, like you mentioned. These dogs, if they're up to date on the shots, their immunizations, you can still have an infection just given the type of wounds that we typically see. So certainly the medical treatment, something that a lot of people don't think to do and really need to do in the hours, day after an accident or an attack like this is contact the police, contact animal control. When you have an accident, a motor vehicle accident, for instance, you sit on the side of the highway, a policeman will come by and they'll write up a report and you'll get that, 7-10 days, whatever afterwards. In these situations, you're not usually staying at the residence right after. It's usually a situation where you need to get to the hospital quickly to get the wound treated to make sure there is no infection. So being mindful to, at the hospital, tell the medical personnel what happened. A lot of times they will contact animal control on their own, but then also contacting the local authorities and making out and filling a police report so they can follow up with the homeowner, with the dog owner to make sure the dog's up to date on immunizations, up to date on shots. And then another thing in the hours, days, weeks, months after an attack is documenting the injury itself. If there's any scarring, having photos, that sort of stuff, and then also kind of similar to what we do with motor vehicle accidents, and something we recommend is getting statements. If there's other individuals that are there, get statements from those people while it's fresh in their mind. The further you get away from the incident, from the attack, the memories kind of fade and stuff can kind of change. So we want to get those statements as soon as we can.
Yeah. How important is it to, if you don't know who the owner of the dog is, right? You can't file a lawsuit against a dog. You can only file a lawsuit against the owner or the individual that was in control of the dog. Do you find sometimes that it's difficult because somebody got bit by a dog but they don't know who owned the dog? How important it is to call animal control and do things to try and identify who the owner of the dog is?
Yeah, absolutely, and that's paramount to being able to proceed with the case. If you know the location, the residence of where the attack happened, that's good information, again, to provide to animal control, to provide to the local authorities, because they can then go to that residence, give a description of the dog. A lot of times, everything happens so quickly, right. And then, in the aftermath, you're focused, as you should, on, stopping the bleeding, getting to the hospital or to a doctor as quickly as you can. But giving a description of the dog, is it black? Is it brown? Is it white? Is it, a 30-pound dog? Is it a 60-pound dog? Is it a 100-pound dog? Giving an accurate description the best you can to the police, to the local authorities, and an address or a location of where the attack occurred. There's a lot of times where the officers will follow up, go knock on the door, and they'll see the dog, right standing, or say they got a chain link fence, they can see the dog, in the background or behind the fence barking. That can help kind of hone that in, because you're right. At the end of the day, you're not bringing a claim against the dog, you're bringing a claim against the owner or the keeper of the dog.
Yeah, and I've always encouraged clients, if they can, if the injuries are not so severe, if you've got a phone on you, take photographs of the dog.
Absolutely.
That way you'll have a record of exactly who the dog was that attacked you. So this is a great time to take our first break of the evening. As a reminder, if you'd like to get in touch with our attorneys, they are standing by right now to take your calls. So if you have questions, get those calls in throughout the course of the show. 205-324-3600 or 1-844-LAW TALK. Stay tuned. We'll be right back for more of The Attorneys.
I'm Josh Wright with the law firm of Hollis, Wright, a personal injury law firm, and thank you for watching The Attorneys. We hope you, a friend, or a loved one never needs legal counsel for a case. But if you do, the goal of the show is simple: to provide answers and legal counsel when you need it the most. Your call to the show is free and off air. So if you have questions specific to the show or related to other accident or injury topics, call, email, or text us. You can also follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube, or go to hollis-wright.com and click on the Contact Us button. We know your time is valuable, so thank you for spending it with us and watching The Attorneys.
The Attorneys, proudly sponsored by the law firm of Hollis Wright, are here to serve you.
When we started the show 8 years ago, my hope was we would be able to do what we do best, which is to help people answer real-world legal-related issues they have in their life.
People oftentimes are confronting various legal issues and problems in their lives that range across the gamut of legal practice areas: bankruptcy, criminal law, family law, just to name a few. And to be able to have a 30-minute platform or format to where we can just cover various legal topics once a week, that's obviously the primary focus of the show.
That we would be able to use the resources of the many lawyers we have at this law firm to create a plan that had a lasting impact that also gave back to the community at the same time. And I think we've done just that with The Attorneys.
Welcome back into the Attorneys, having a great conversation with attorney John Spade concerning dog bite injuries and animal attacks. John, let's jump right back into it. So when we took a break, we were talking about various aspects of these cases, but one of the things that I find that a lot of our clients are always interested in or concerned about is that a lot of these dog bite injuries occur from friends who own dogs or neighbors who had the dog, and it's somebody that the injured person is acquainted with. Is there reluctance sometimes by these individuals to bring claims against family members or friends or neighbors? And what would you tell the viewers who are thinking about that here this evening?
There certainly can be some reluctance, and when I'm talking to a new client or potential client about everything, the thing to keep in mind is we're not making a claim against the individual's bank account, okay? There's a homeowner's insurance, a renter's insurance if they're in an apartment building. Those are the entities that are paying for, the pain and suffering, the permanent injury, the scarring, the medical bills, lost wages, all those things that we can recover against the owner or the keeper of the dog. It's important to keep in mind that the insurance company, homeowners, renters insurance, are the ones that are behind the scenes, but are the ones that are actually paying to compensate the injured victim. And it's just like all of our cases, even motor vehicle accident cases. We might, the law requires us to sue an individual, but there's an insurance company that's providing that defense. There's an insurance company behind the scenes that's paying a lawyer to defend the other driver. And in this situation, it would be an insurance company that would be paying an attorney to defend the homeowner, the dog owner, the keeper of the dog.
And goodness, I know a lot of people are very protective of their dogs. We all love our dogs and our pets that we have, but if you have a dog that bites somebody else or injures a child or something like that, that's why you have homeowners insurance. One of many reasons why you would have homeowners insurance. I would want somebody to get compensation if my dog did that to somebody else and injured them. I know some people don't always feel that way, but I think that's one of the things that you and I oftentimes will encourage our clients about, is to say, look, yes, technically you may be making a claim against your neighbor or the individual, but that's just the vehicle to get to their homeowner's insurance company, who will ultimately be financially responsible.
Absolutely. I mean, that's why you have the coverage. And a lot of times in these situations, we're talking about very catastrophic injuries, life-changing injuries for these people. And, I think there's also a flip side to that, of that kind of neighborly feeling. And, hey, I'm sorry this happened. I wish it never did, but it did.
Right.
I want to do anything I can to help and to do right. Because it was my dog. I wish it didn't happen, but it did. And so a lot of times I'll encourage clients, before we really get involved as far as sending letters and contacting the dog owner, to walk next door, to walk down the street and say, hey, this happened, my child, or I've got these injuries and everything. Do you have homeowners insurance? Can you give me the name of the homeowners insurance? Because I'm out of pocket a lot of money for these medical bills, and I've got this scarring wherever it might be. So that kind of can help ease some of those tensions on the front end, because it is uncomfortable. But I find most times people at the end of the day do want to do right, and they do want to help. And that is the claim against the owner is the kind of the vehicle, but at the end of the day, it's the insurance that's really involved.
Now, I want to preface this next question by saying that John Spade and Carter Clay are not anti-pit bulls, anti-Rottweilers, and things of that nature. But I think it is important for us to bring up that the law does recognize some distinctions between those types of dogs and, say, your Labrador retrievers or your golden retrievers. Talk a little bit about how the law distinguishes between those types of animals in terms of legal claims that can be brought.
Absolutely. And inevitably, whenever we do a show like this, we get people calling in, I adopted a pit bull, and it's the sweetest pit bull in the world. It would never do any wrong. And I agree with that. And there are great dogs of every breed out there, but I've got to look at, and what we have to deal with, every day, is looking at what the law and their interpretation of certain breeds. And there have been certain breeds, pit bulls, bull mastiffs, Rottweilers, German shepherds that are considered to be inherently dangerous breeds. And so in Alabama, you can bring a claim against the owner or the keeper of the dog under Alabama's dog bite statute, which is a strict liability statute.
All right, what does that mean real quick?
So if your dog bites somebody, you are responsible for the injuries and damages that flow from that interaction, that bite, that attack. And so there are some mitigation, not to get too much in the weeds, there are some mitigation defenses and everything, but at the end of the day, they are responsible for at least the pecuniary or the out-of-pocket expenses that flow from that bite. But there's also negligence, which is not a statutory cause of action, it's just a common law cause of action, and that's where this dangerous propensity comes into play. Alabama, a lot of people will say that Alabama has a one bite rule. Okay, that is a little bit misleading. Now, if a poodle or probably not a Chihuahua, but a poodle or a
Chihuahuas can be kind of vicious.
They can, or a Labrador or a Golden Retriever, were to bite somebody and you had no idea that the dog had never done anything like that before, weren't on notice of any of those propensities, then there would be a defense that you weren't aware of that.
Right.
Now, once that dog bites somebody, even if it is a lab, I've got a lab at home. She's sweet, but they have certain propensities of their own as just a breed. They like to jump. They're very playful breeds. But if my dog were to bite somebody, and then I was aware of that and they bit somebody else, then I could potentially be liable. And so there are certain breeds, pit bulls, Rottweilers, German Shepherds, that the courts have just said and found that these are inherently dangerous breeds, and the owners are automatically on notice that they could potentially be vicious and could bite somebody.
Yeah, you just don't get that free pass, that one bite with those dogs that have been designated to have sort of vicious or dangerous propensities inherently within them.
Absolutely.
This is a good time. Show's flying by. We'll take our second break of the evening. And just as a reminder, if you're not able to get your questions answered tonight, we'll have lawyers standing by during regular business hours throughout the course of the week. You can reach our lawyers at 844-LAW-TALK. 205-324-3600. And please know that Hollis Wright has a huge social media platform, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. You can find us on just about every social media platform out there, so get in touch with us through social media as well. Stay tuned for our last segment of The Attorneys, coming right up.
I'm attorney John Spade with the Hollis Wright Law Firm. If you have ever had a personal injury claim, the attorney handling your case has likely told you that a portion of your settlement would have to be used to pay back your health insurance company for the medical bills that they paid relating to your injuries. This is called subrogation. In this week's Legal 411, we are answering the question, what is subrogation and how does it affect your personal injury claim? When you purchase health insurance, you sign a contract with the health insurance company, which provides that in exchange for you paying a monthly premium, the insurance company will pay your medical bills when you're injured. Now, that contract has a paragraph that gives your health insurance company the right to seek repayment for the medical bills they paid if you in turn use those medical bills as a basis to recover from a third party that caused your injury. The idea is that your health insurance company would not have had to pay your medical bills if it weren't for the wrongdoing of the third party. Now, health insurance companies routinely put attorneys on notice of their subrogation claims by outlining exactly which medical payments the health insurance company is claiming a subrogation claim for and for what amounts. Throughout the handling of your case, your attorney should be aware of the amount of subrogation your health insurance company is claiming and whether all the claimed subrogation is related to your underlying personal injury case. That way, if your case resolves, your attorney can then negotiate a reduction of the health insurance company's subrogation claim. Subrogation is one of the many moving parts that can affect your personal injury settlement and what you stand to recover. Please remember, your call, email, or text to the attorneys is free. All of us at Hollis Wright want to help answer your questions on real issues you face. Remember, a competent lawyer will respond to every question you send in. That's our pledge and our promise to you. Thanks for watching The Attorneys on WVTM 13.
Welcome back into the Attorneys for the final segment of the evening. Just a few more minutes to get your questions in, so call now to have a free, off-air, confidential conversation with a Hollis Wright attorney. They're standing by right now to answer your legal questions. John, let's jump right back in to the conversation. We've got a viewer question here. I was recently bitten by a dog. What types of damages or money can I recover for my injuries?
Well, to kind of explain, let's take a step back. We've got what are called compensatory damages and punitive damages. Okay, punitive damages are designed to punish the individual and to deter similar conduct in the future. Okay, that is a potential damage in these types of cases. However, I will, preface that with a caveat that those are very difficult damages to get because you have to prove that there was a wanton or a reckless behavior from the dog owner or the keeper. But compensatory damages is more what we deal with on a day-to-day basis, and that is medical expenses. That's any sort of permanent injury, scarring, disfigurement, lost wages. There's subrogation that's rolled up in medical expenses if that's an item of damage that we're pursuing. And then, of course, physical pain and suffering, mental anguish, mental suffering. And what we find in these types of cases is that is a big component of the damages. These are always very traumatic events. And we've seen over handling these for many years that the psychological damage can persist for a very long time, especially if it's in a young child or even with adolescents or adults. It's something that really sticks with somebody for a long time.
Yeah. How do leash laws factor into assessing these cases and these legal claims? For instance, if somebody has their dog on a leash and the dog walks by somebody and bites them, are the repercussions still the same, or how do leash laws factor into this?
Leash laws can certainly can play a role as far as what is reasonable and what you should be doing with your dog. We talked about Alabama's dog bite statute. We've talked about general negligence principles. Those are two kind of vehicles that you can travel under. Depending on where the attack occurs, if it's in, for instance, a public park that has a leash law, or a municipality like Jefferson County's adopted leash laws, and the dog is not on a leash at all, then that can give rise to liability. Or the dog is on a leash, but it's not being restrained by the leash. That also can open up a potential liability and potential negligence there. So it's another vehicle that we have to assess, to look at, another issue that we kind of work through and see if it applies. And that's why these cases, I think it is very important to talk with an attorney, because there are a lot of nuances that simple Google research won't really return. And so leash laws are certainly a big part of that. Either not being on a leash at all, or on a leash but not being restrained by the leash and allowing basically to be able to roam free, which is what the ordinance most times is designed to prevent.
Yeah, when I was growing up, everybody, if your dog went outside and was not on a leash, people kept them in the backyard. Typically, people had a physical barrier, a physical fence. But in the last decade or so, these underground fences have become very popular, where people will literally put a perimeter around their whole house, or maybe they will do it in their front yard, and they'll let their dog out in their front yard. But of course, these underground fences do not prevent people from coming onto your property. And has that created some new legal claims and issues in the types of cases that you're handling?
It has, and it kind of provides this false security too for the dog owner a lot of times. When you have a mailman or Amazon delivery, or somebody that's coming onto your property by either express or implied invitation, they're not going to stop at that physical barrier. They're just going to walk on and think that everything's fine, walking up to your front door, and then here comes the dog around the corner out of nowhere and can have that attack. So that certainly it provides that false sense of security. Also, we found that the batteries on the collars sometimes stop working. And so they think that they've got this safeguard in place, but it's not actually in place, and a dog can pursue an individual from the property, off the property, into the road, into the common areas. So that can create a whole other issue.
Yeah, and we've talked in terms of vicious propensities and dangerous propensities, but a lot of these cases that we have and that we look at don't necessarily involve a dog bite. In other words, I've had cases over the years that involved puppy Labrador retrievers where the puppies got loose. They were several months old, but still considered to be puppies, but they got loose. They went on the property of an elderly lady, jumped up on her in a playful way, knocked her down, and she had a broken hip and wound up having to have surgery, and we successfully pursued a claim against the dog owner. So talk a little bit about those types of cases and the importance of the viewers understanding that these injuries can come about in a lot of different ways. They don't necessarily have to come about in a dog bite.
Yeah, a lot of people, hear dog bite, dog attack, and they think just you're kind of, a dog latching on with their teeth and throwing you like a rag doll. But you're right. It is all types of propensities or propensities to act or do a certain thing. So you mentioned the Labrador Retriever. I mean, that's kind of a hallmark of the breed. They jump and they're playful, and it's not any ill will or ill intent by the dog. That's just how they are, and that's just that type of a breed. Another type of propensity would be the propensity to chase bicycles, chase cars, chase people walking, on going through the neighborhood, going on their morning or afternoon walk, and a dog every time they see somebody runs on beelines off the front porch and goes and jumps on the person. Yeah. Okay, it might not be a physical bite that's happening, but we've handled a number of cases. I've got some cases right now that where those similar type incidents have happened, and very, very severe, broken bones and lifelong injuries, even though there's no physical attack or bite that's happening.
All right, just about a minute left in the show. Just time for maybe some final thoughts from you on what you want the viewers to take away from this topic here this evening.
Well, first and foremost, not all dogs are bad. I'm a dog owner myself, and they're great companions, and they are, a lot of times they're thought of as our children, as our pets. But there can be very serious consequences if they're not, taken care of properly, if they're not put up when they need to be put up. They can have very devastating impacts on unassuming individuals. And so, be mindful of those things. And if you're attacked, get medical treatment and try to get to an attorney, because they can be very nuanced cases, and everything needs to be looked at with a fresh set of eyes.
Yeah, great advice, John. We really appreciate everybody joining us here this evening for this segment of The Attorneys. And just reminders, you can get in touch with us throughout the week. If you are not able to get your question answered here this evening, we have attorneys standing by. Thank you so much again. We'll look forward to seeing you next time right here on The Attorneys.
Thanks for watching The Attorneys, sponsored by Hollis Wright.